Okay. So as a response to some of Shonner's questions, which were very good, actually, some of the questions you asked involve some things I've been thinking of. So about the picture, I think it's the newest Blade Runner one with Ryan Gosling. I think it's 2047. I don't remember. It might be 2057 or something, but it's a screenshot from that movie. Having Lou Shonner here gives me some. It's like your little Cthulhu. It makes me a little less anxious. Okay, so about the font you asked, this is a historical font. The name is the Gutenberg Bible. One of the first printing presses that were used in the during the Holy Roman Empire in Germany. So it's that. Then I wrote down some of the points you asked. What are you adding when rolling? So basically, you are adding your masteries like alchemy, sword fighting, sprinting, empathy, to your abilities. So like seven, a mastery is always a +3 in this case, right? In this, when using humors, it needs to be a +3 because then the numbers, the abilities get too high and the players are rarely missing or rarely failing. So it's always a +3. The maximum number you can start as when you create a character is 8. So that would make it like so. So you're adding to your abilities only. The traits, when applied to that task you want, so again, a mental task. If the scene or your character has a trait that directly applies to that task, that mental task, then you can add a +1 to your brain. So you can go up to 9 now for that task alone, 9. Or you can go back to 8. That's what you're doing, right? Only relevant traits. So contested roles, that's interesting. That's something that I've been thinking about because it does enter a little bit conflict. What I've been doing on my last few games, I don't get to play as much as I get to think about it. I think I popped the mic. Sorry. Uh, basically, a success negates the other success. So if I roll to attack and I got it, the adversary, let's say if it's a player, I make a distinction between, let's say, minor NPCs and major NPCs. Minor NPCs, they are basically cannon fodder. One hit, you eliminate them. Oh, by the way, the skulls are wounds. You can only get wounded 4 times before you die. I like lethal games. So you roll to attack. If it's a PvP, you roll to attack another player. If you success, then he has to decide if he wants to evade or if he wants to parry. If he succeeds in his defense roll, then it negates your attack. But let's come back to that a little later on. So about the hands. Sorry, this is all over the place. Again, I don't know how to do the cool YouTube thing where it's all very organized. I tried to write down, translate more what each thing does. So yeah, hands is like your handling, like you're aiming, pick locking, you're playing a song. It's these things that require manual precision. Okay, so yeah, but I'm not fully happy with this because there is only one situation that if you really succeed, even if you attack and you get a really good roll, like you get a double 1, which is the best outcome possible, and it is around a 0.69% chance, so it's very rare, but it can happen. When that happens, even if you attack and the other guy defends, you still get to do something. But I'll get to that soon. But yeah, contested roles in the moment are like this: a success negates the previous success. But I'll get more into that. Good at the backstabbing because you're antisocial. Yes, that's the idea. If what you're doing, the way you're doing, the motives of what you're doing align with your humor, you get to use that as a bonus. So you have a humor that is going to be 4, one that is 3, and 2 that are 2. So you want to have your character in his most natural mind space. But things happen, and even a joyful person will get depressed, or even a very calm person will get angry, and that will make your character fumble more because he's out of his element. Then yes, a system setting a system. Yes, that was the idea. I designed a world around the humors, like what if the humors were actually true, and their connection, the idea that they were connected to the elements was very true in the spiritual sense. That's the idea I'm going with. So the idea is that when you're playing my game, you are playing this very dramatic, almost like these baroque paintings of characters. Things are very raw, emotion-wise. I don't remember what was this about. Adding some, yeah. So I agree. When just to make a roll, you need to be like, oh, plus this, plus this. Oh, but then minus this. Hogs the game down for sure. So that's why usually one negates the other. So if you have the drunk trait, uh, but then you also have the trait. Hmm, let me see another better example. If you have two traits and one is a bonus and the other is the opposite of a bonus, they negate each other, so you just cancel them out. Because what I did to help is it's either a plus or minus 1 or a plus minus 5. You only use the plus and minus 5 in a situation where it's very related to that. Like I said, like you're climbing and it's raining, that is directly tied to that situation, and it will affect a lot. So it's a minus 5 in this situation. So you're not doing, it's not like, oh, in this situation it's a plus 3, but now it's plus 2. No, you know, it's more streamlined to avoid unnecessary math. So the analogy for rolling under, right? Uh, what I like about that, so as it's very clear about my accent, English is not my first language, and English is my second language. I also had to learn a little bit of Japanese. The way I see it, for me to learn English was not very hard, both because they have a lot of Latin influence, so they are closer on the family tree of languages. But learning Japanese was a whole different thing. But here's the thing: Koreans can learn Japanese without much bother. Why is that? Uh, in some situations, difficulty is relative, right? Because I teach English over here, and sometimes people say like, "Oh, like English is so hard." Like, is it? Like after you get the hang of it, you get the basics, like the main structure, you you learn it. That's with anything, I guess. If you go over that initial learning curve, you then you soar. That's kind of the idea of rolling under. Shooting is hard for me because I don't know how to shoot. I don't know how to aim. But if you give a gun to someone who knows, it's easier for them. That's like the logic that I was going with. When to call rolls and traits, like when do you roll? You only roll if there's conflict. If the idea of conflict is there, right? Like we talked in the stream, like you're making porridge, oatmeal. If it's just like, oh, I'm gonna make some oatmeal because my character is waking up, Like you're not going to roll. I'm not calling for a roll, but like in the analogy that you used, let's say he lives with his girlfriend or wife or something. Let's take girlfriend. Now, as a narrator, as a referee, I we know by context that their relationship was not going so well. So him failing the oatmeal can add some conflict and add some tension to their relationship. So yeah, you can roll even if your target number is, let's say, 17, which would be unlikely. But if he fails, there's conflict. So that's how I go, right? So if you have the mastery, I'm usually not calling for a roll. Like again, like if you can just redo the thing again and again and again, you will eventually get it. So like yeah, you're an alchemist, you know about alchemy. Of course you can pick up the little vial, smell it, and know what it is. You know, you're an alchemist. Different from like a bowman, you know. Narrating success. So decrease of success, right? Yes, there is a mechanic for rolling low because you want to roll very low. And I'm thinking about adding degrees of success. Something you said, like failing a plus for failing, right? You failed 4 numbers higher than your target number. I might add something. I might try to incorporate that. I like that idea. I haven't thought about that, so I'll be thinking about that and maybe update in a video when I have something nice. But yeah, so you're always adding to your skill to determine the target number. This little guy here, this is what you're adding up to. So there's no static target number. Although I did some things that some during some games I did determine, like, oh yeah, this is a super hard for everyone, doesn't matter, it's a 5 or minus or less, you know. But usually you just using your character sheet you can determine the difficulty of the task here at hand. Okay, so yeah, coming back now to this thing here, right, that we put here, failing really bad or succeeding really well. It is a meta currency, but it's only one. So what do I have here? Okay, so the name, I didn't find a good translation in English yet, but it would be something like this, right? Fortune and omen and bad omen. Every time you roll a 1 on the die, so let's say you roll, you get 8 and 1, it's a total of 9. Because of this 1, you will get a token, a fortune token. Your character can have up to 2 tokens at all times, and each token can do something during the game. Mind you, when I created this was way before I learned about the 4D stuff. So when I found the 4D niche of the community, I noticed, oh, I guess I was trying to gravitate towards that and trying to make it a mechanical thing. Sorry, I popped again. So like an extra action. So in the combat you have only one action, which is do something. You just do something and that's your action, an attack or moving, crossing a really far distance. But you can use one fortune point to immediately get to do something else. It's like kind of like of a momentum, right? You're rolling well, things are going well for you, so you find these opportunities in these situations. For 2 points, you can create a trait or a complication. So let's say you roll 2 ones. That's perfect, because if you roll 2 ones, you get 2 tokens. So even if you fail, you attack, you roll 2 ones, but the guy defending also succeeds, he negates your attack. He's not going to take a wound, but you can immediately use to add a complication. So you say, even though, so I attack him with my sword, but even though as he deflects it, I managed to make the tip of my sword slice his eyebrow just enough to make blood pour over his eyes, and now he's blinded by the blood. So now you added a trait to that other character. And because he's blind now, he's going to roll bad because he's not seeing well. So you failed, but you can use this to your advantage. You know, even if you fail on dealing damage, you can still use it for something good, or you can create a trait for yourself as well. You can say that you got a good footing, you know. For 1 point, you can create a tool. What is a tool? Tool is basically any equipment, a little dagger, a little rock, some rope. This is one of the things I thought was funny because in 4D, players have the agency to create small stuff. And I guess I was gravitating towards that without knowing, because I added this mechanic. There is a limit, like of course you cannot bring out like a montante sword out of nowhere, right? Like a dagger in a boot, everyone can have that at all times. For 2 points, you can live another day. So let's say you took all your 4 damages. We do have a table to roll what happens to you. You most likely die, or at least like lose an arm or something, lose an eye. But you can roll to spend those 2 points to try again, roll again, to see if you get a better result. And Sina, or the Omen, is the same thing, but it comes to me as the GM, and it kind of does the same things. So even if the what's the faun, not the satyr, the satyr attacks but misses, I can do the same thing because he rolled good. He got Omen. So when enemies roll ones, they get Omen. If the enemies roll 12s, then they give fortune to the players, and vice versa. If the players roll really bad, they give Omen to the narrator. And it works in the same way. It's like momentum, but for the enemies. Okay, I guess I explained this faster than I thought I would. But that's it. And the humors, it does tie to the magic system as well. I use a free form of magic, so you have the name of the spell, and based on the name, up on the spot, you can as a player roleplay how that affects. So let's say you have a spell named All Seen Smoke. You can say that it's a little ritual you do around the fire that helps bring you visions, so you can see the future or commune with spirits and stuff like that. I did take it from, I don't remember. There is an RPG I took this from. I just adapted a bit into my setting. It is a 15th century setting, a Renaissance setting. I do, but that's it. And talents. Again, I know you don't like it. It's similar to feats. So you have, it's, for example, being able to cast magic is a talent, or have the talent to be able to ricochet your pistols, right? Because again, Renaissance, they had flintlocks. So stuff like that. The talents help me with the role building. So if there's something that is tied to a faction, then you need to have that talent. But overall, you can attempt pretty much anything as long as the numbers here help you. Ambition is, when you create a character, you need to have like a sentence of his ambition. Basically, when you role play towards that ambition, you get more XP. That's why it's there. So my mentality was trying to help players roleplay, and add the roleplay into the mechanic of the game. That was what I was going for.